Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about age. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, how do you feel about age discrimination in IT, and is that a thing? And the short answer is yes. I'm very sorry to say that it is a thing, and I have a few thoughts on this. Let me explain. So, as you probably know, every single person on this planet has a mental picture of how someone in a specific role should act. One of my favorite things is things such as I say that, oh, I was talking to a very rude police officer. Most people will picture a young man, 20s, 30s, maybe 40s, something like that, in a officer's uniform, even though this might have been a very rude woman. It doesn't, like, there's no reason for you to think that, oh, this should be a man. But there's a lot of roles where you would associate a man with that sort of role. Same thing as I said, if I said, oh, I had a really nice kindergarten teacher. Well, quite a lot of people would think of a woman first. Not necessarily, but we can all agree that our culture influences us in a way where we see different people for different reasons work in different areas or do certain things or fulfill a role. It's the same thing with the whole, should men stay home and take care of the kids or should women do it? Like, we have all of these mental pictures of how someone should be. Now, when it comes to age, it's a very similar sort of thing in my experience. What usually happens is that you have certain ages or certain roles where you think that a person of a given age should have that occupation or should do that sort of activity, when there's not really much of a reason for that. An example would be that it's very, very rare that someone would take a 20-something person very seriously in a board meeting at a multi-billion-dollar industry. Usually the average age rate of board members is a lot higher than that. They're at least in their 30s usually. And so it works in both ways. If you, on the other hand, if you flip that and say, all right, you're going to start working in, I don't know, you're going to work at McDonald's or things like that, then it would be out of place for some people to see someone who's in their 60s or near retirement age. It's not technically there's nothing that would stop this person from necessarily doing the job, unless it's a physical matter, of course. But we have a mental picture, and in programming, it's a very similar sort of thing where, depending on how old you are, you're going to see different levels of interest in you, depending also on the role that you're going to look for. I like to give an example here, and I like to say that if you're going to be a CTO, or if you're trying to be a person of like a manager or something like that, then being a little bit older is actually often a very useful thing. It might be very beneficial for you to be in your 30s or your 40s or your 50s or something like that, depending on, of course, what role you're going for. But quite a lot of companies will associate a manager or like someone of a little bit of age, or maturity at least, that's the sort of person you want managing your company. You're not really often, it's not that often you're looking for a 21-year-old or something like that to run your company. If you're looking for that sort of thing, it's usually much more common to find that in a startup or someone who's like an entrepreneur, starts their own thing. But if you're looking for a junior developer or a new hire or a mid-level developer or something like that, well, let's just say junior level developer for now, and someone walks in, a man or a woman in their 50s comes walking in the door, and they almost have no experience working with programming, then the mental, the mental picture, or like for a lot of people, is kind of off, because usually people think of a junior developer as being in their 20s or their 30s. Now, as I've said, there's nothing really indicating that one is going to be able to do, I guess, if we're talking about junior level development, there's nothing guaranteeing that someone who is 50 won't be able to do the job of a 20-year-old in a junior position, just as it is feasible that someone in, say, let's say their 30s, just to be a little bit fairer about this, someone in their late 20s or early 30s being able to run a company as well as someone who's doing it in their 40s or 50s, well, the person in their 40s or 50s, they may not be very good at managing. Like, they may have more life experience, but they may not be so good at this job. So I'm very sorry to say that this is a thing, but I want you to be aware of that it is a thing sometimes, and it comes down to, as I said, it's a culture thing more than anything else. It doesn't really have any real tangible logic behind it. It's discrimination, just as you would discriminate someone for their skin color or their taste in music, I don't know, clothing, things like that, having a lot of tattoos, etc., etc. But what I've found, which I think is interesting and very often overlooked, is that the best, at least in my experience, the best companies and the best working teams, they understand that you need ideally both in order to succeed. It is one of the most profound and useful insights especially a startup can make. I can speak for myself. My own bosses are very aligned on this, where if you gather up a bunch of 20, 30-year-olds and you're going to run a company, you're going at some point realize that you don't really know all that. You're basically just making stuff up as you go along. Now, as a younger person or someone who's starting out fresher in their career, you may know of all the trendiest tools and the newest practices and so forth, because it's all new to you and you're kind of just grabbing things as you go along. But at some point you're going to have questions that you find very hard to answer. Things like management, things like how do you structure, how do you set things up, how do you create processes, how should you think when you try to scale the company, should you think when you're setting up different satellite offices and you want to go to new markets and you want to expand your business, etc., etc. This is experience. There's no book that you can read that's going to teach you this. And this is where a more mature, a more senior profile is it's invaluable to have such people in the company. So the best companies, in my experience, and the best teams, they mix people of seniority with people who are less experienced but can bring in new, fresh ideas and and push things. And they're hungry young entrepreneurs or young programmers who really want to make a difference, and they have all this energy. So combining the experience of someone who might be in their 40s or 50s with the hunger of someone who's in their 20s or 30s, and putting them at sort of the same influence level, because you don't the thing is, there is a prejudice that sometimes is true, that people who are more senior, they've seen more, they've been around for longer, and it's not necessarily the case that they're still as hungry as they used to be. So if you put them in a power position where they can kill the flames or kill the passion of the younger developers or managers, it might become a problem. So it becomes a bit of every person is different, so you have to find the right people to do this. But if you find the right seniors and you have the right juniors, they can do anything. They can do amazing things. They complement each other in a way that is absolutely amazing. They just multiply their own value over and over and over and over. The seniors have the experience and usually appreciate to be around people who are still a little bit hungry, because that rekindles a lot of their own passion again. They might have, and it's not that uncommon for people who have been working for quite some time to want to try something new because they got bored, or they're not as interested anymore in just playing it safe or things like that. They want to try something else. They want to reinvent themselves or rekindle that passion. And going to a startup or a company where the age is a little bit lower can actually help with that sort of thing, if it's a very accepting environment. And same thing goes for the younger developers. They have a lot of passion and they have a lot of drive, but they simply don't have the experience to make very complicated decisions, such as business scaling and processes and teams and things like that. They're good at the coding and know the tools, but they just don't have enough life experience. And having a mentor, such as a senior, it's there's no substitute. It is the best thing possible for any company, if you ask me. So what I want you to take away from this is basically just that I'm very sorry to say that discrimination when it comes to age is a thing, and it's not always a thing, but it quite often, and it very often depends on what the role is that you're going for. So if you're a junior level developer and you're in your 40s or your 50s, it might be that you're gonna struggle a little bit because you're not fitting so well into this mental picture a lot of people have what a junior developer should be. The same thing goes for a junior. If you think that you're going to be 20 years old and then become the CTO of Google or something like that, you're probably setting yourself up for a lot of disappointment. Because unless you start your own company and do that, it's not that many people who are going to trust that you, even if you're the most genius person ever, that you're going to be able to be up to that. And it's based on your inexperience, your life inexperience more than anything else. Even if you have fancy law degrees or fancy business or MBAs or things like that, usually it doesn't matter all that much. There are exceptions, I will tell you that right now. But the best part, in my experience, is if you have a company who understands that if you mix a junior profile with a more senior profile, together they can do absolutely amazing things. The seniors rekindle their interest and their passion and can lead with experience or influence with experience, and the juniors have tons and tons of ideas and hunger and bring a new perspective on things. And together, if they can collaborate, the sky is the limit, in my experience at least. It's the best thing possible. Have a great day.